Hello everyone. In this lecture video, I will continue working on single table queries. So in my last video, we discussed until query number 15 and we're gonna start with 16. If you watched my last video, you saw that I was struggling with a round function. So I figured that one out. So let's address that one first, right? So let's say this one here, right? This is a query I wanted to execute, and I use round function here. Right? You see that? So it's rounding everything to 0 decimal places. Okay, but if you don't use the round function here, let's say you don't do it like this, okay, and run it, it's gonna give decimal, and if you try to use it here, not gonna work. So that's what was happening last time as well. I guess because this is just a filter condition, right? This is just filter condition. It's not going to work here. It has to be up here where you first construct the formula in the select clause, because this is just putting filter on whatever the formula we have it here. Something you have to keep in mind. Okay. And what if you want to, let's say this is the what I had, this is working. What if you want to fetch it to 1 decimal places? If you want to fetch the data up to 1 decimal places, I'm just gonna say comma 1. It's gonna give me 1 decimal places. Okay, so it's include both without decimal and 1 decimal. If you say it 2, it's gonna do the 2 decimal places. Something you have to keep in mind. Okay, so moving on here, let's do number 16 here. So we are getting into the count function. So it's like aggregating the data by some condition. So how many items are there in category GME? Okay, so GME is the item, right? So category is there in the GME, and that's item there. Okay, so I'm gonna say first, let's say select from item. I want to say category. Okay, I just want to run this one and see how many categories are there. So if you see, we have, let's sort this order by category. Okay, so we have 6 transactions by this particular category GME. Okay, so what we need to do here is we just need to say count of star, which means, you know, just count all the records, okay, that match this condition from item where category equals single quotes GME, single quotes because this is a text data type, don't want to order by. Okay, and we need one more condition. Now we are grouping, right? Counting is just grouping all the observation and count them. So I'm going to say group by. Oh, we don't need group by here because we're just counting. Simple, plain simple. Okay, so it's the count is 6. Okay, so there are 6, we saw that. So there is no group by needed here, but we're gonna need it uh, going forward. Okay, so let's say using the sum function, find the total number of tall distributor customers and the total of their balances. Okay, so total number of tall distributor customers and sum of their balances. So again, whatever is acting on the total, the complete table, we don't need to use group by. Okay, so this is acting on the complete table, so we need to just count how many customers are there and, you know, what are their total balances. Okay, so we're gonna say here select count of star and sum of balance, okay, from customer. Well, that should do the trick. It tells me that there are 12 customers and the sum of all the balances of all customers in the entire table is 222.87.74. That's what it means. Okay, moving on to 18 here. We're using average, max, and mean function. Find the sum of balances, the average balance, the maximum, the minimum balance, all. So basically the same thing. Instead of using one, we're gonna use many different functions. Again, this is acting on the complete table. Okay, so we're gonna list everything there. Some then we're gonna do the average AVG, average balance. Then we're gonna say maximum of balance, and then we're gonna say mean of balance. So right, so see, this is where you need the round function. Okay, but here again the functions are acting on the complete table, so we don't need to use any group by. So we're gonna discuss group by down the line here, but let's round this one up first. So I'm gonna say round 8 to 2 decimal places. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And again, if you want to give a name to this one, you can always do that. For example, I want to give a name to this column as an alias. I'm going to say as, say, you know, average balance. Just an example. Okay, so it's going to give you that heading here. Otherwise, it's just going to put the formula there as a table heading here in the output. Moving on to the next one, distinct operator. Find the number of each customer that currently has an open order, that is an order currently in the orders table. So we're gonna say that means that we need to fetch the customer number, all the customer numbers in the orders table. Okay, because in the orders table you have all the customer that has open orders. Okay, so you have customer number here. I'm gonna say here select customer underscore number from orders table. Okay, let's see how many customers there. So you see it's saying that you have 8 customers, but you have repeated customers. So 126 is there, 126 is again appearing here. So 586 is appearing twice. So you have repeated customer number. We just want the list of customer number distinct. So we're going to use keyword distinct. So that's going to give me all the distinct appearances of the customer number who has open orders in the table orders. Something to keep in mind. Number 20, find the number of each customer that currently has an open order. So we already did that. So here, let me copy this one. This was with duplication, and this was supposed to be without duplication. Okay, so same thing. So moving on, count the number of customer that that currently has open orders. Okay, so here we have to count the customer. So here we listed the customer. So here we are listing customer. So we have 6 customers. Right here we have to count those customers. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy this one. I'm gonna say here I want to count. Okay, I guess this has to be distinct. We can always put this in single quotes here. I mean, within parentheses, and count, we're gonna nest this distinct function within the count. So we're gonna say count here. Okay. Okay. And we can give a name to it as customer number. Okay. They're going to give you 6 with open orders. Okay, so you see how I used it. So this is distinct. That's going to give me. It's always good to place this functions within parentheses. So like we are passing a parameter called customer number to the function distinct, although it works without parentheses, but here it makes sense here. So you are fetching the distinct customer number and then counting all those. So you're nesting distinct function within the count function. Something you have to keep in mind. Let's move on to 22 here. So list the number of each item in the category PLZ. So it's very simple. So I'm going to say select from item where category equals PZL, right? And we want to select the number of each item. So select item number. Okay. Okay. Let's run this one. Oh, where WHERE. Misspelled that one. I was expecting something is wrong there. Now this is working. Okay. Now here we are getting into what you call nested queries. So this is the starting here. Let's say this is what we have listed all the categories, item number that falls in that categories. Now we have to list the order number that contains the order line for an item in this category 23. Okay. So order line means the order number like we have it uh, here that falls in the category PZL. Okay, so we need to find the order number here. So I'm going to say here, select from order. Okay, so order line. So this is the table we are going to use here. Order line. So order line has order number. That's what we want to fetch, and we want to fetch order number for all the items that fall in category PZL. Okay, so I'm gonna say here select order number from order line table where, let's say, item number. We can use in operator to list all this DR67 FH24 KD34 MT03. Okay, so we have multiple order. So obviously one order consider many order line items. So obviously these are 4 items here that we fetched here. Looks like one order has 3 of these items, the other one order has 1 of these items. Okay, these are the order number, and we can again suppress the duplicate values. We can just say distinct here, and it's going to do the trick. But let's move on. So now what we're going to do here, we have to find the answer to about 2 questions in one step. Okay, so here if you see, we wanted to know the order number and that has all the items from category PZL, right? So first we need to find here the item number that falls in that category, and then we have to list those item numbers here. We can do all this thing in one step, and that's called subquery, which is a nested query here. So I'm gonna say here order number, we need the in operator in here, and we're gonna say I'm just gonna replace that one, sorry here. So this is my query here, I'm gonna replace this one here. Okay, and it's always good to indent so that you know which one is a subquery and it's easier to read. So what this is going to do is first they're going to run this statement, find all the item number, and then replace this query with the item number, and then execute the outer query. So this is the inner query and that's outer query. So you're sort of nesting a query inside another query here, right? So we get the same answer, and obviously if you want to suppress the duplicate values, I'm going to say distinct, and I like putting this in parentheses, you know, no need to do that, but it makes it easier to read. So we have two orders, you know, that has items from this category called PZL. List the number, this is again the subquery, the name balance of each customer whose balance exceed the average balances of all the customers. So let's do that. So I'm going to say select from customer number name balance for from customer where balance is greater than, we need to find the average balance, and for that we have to write the query. Okay, we have to say select average balance from customer. Okay, so that's showing me the results here. Okay, now you cannot just write the, you know, you think, if you think that, you know, you can just write like this, just mention the formula there, you know, this will not work. I'm just telling you, I'm just gonna execute this one. It's gonna say group function is not allowed here, something. Okay, so it has to be a complete query. Okay, so this complete query is first executed, and it finds the average balance and replace this entire subquery with the number, the average balance, and then execute the outer query. Okay, so this is my outer query and this is my inner query, something you have to keep in mind. Okay, now we are getting into the group by clause. So we discussed that earlier. If you want to find the aggregation on the entire table, like sum, mean, max, average, you don't need any group by clause. But what if you want to aggregate the data by a certain clause, okay, by a certain condition or by a certain field, then we need group by clause. So for example here, okay, for each sales rep, list the rep number, the average balance of the rep's customer. Okay, and that's coming from the customer table because we have customer rep number there, and we also have the balance, average balance. Okay, so I'm gonna say here, say select from customer, and we want to find the rep number and we want to find the average, AVG, average of balance. Okay. Now, if you try to execute this one as is, it's going to give you an error because it's looking for group by class. It's not a single group function, single group function. Okay. So we need to indicate that we want to aggregate the data by rep number. If you just eliminate the rep number here, this will work. It's gonna, this is gonna find the average balance of all the customers, okay, in the entire table. Okay, but we want the average balance for not the entire table but by rep number. Okay, so we have to say that here we want to group by rep underscore number. Okay, so it's going to give you all the ref number and average balances of the customer for that particular rep. Okay, something you have to keep in mind. Okay, and you want to order by, you can use probably order by as well. Order by rep underscore num, right? So it gives me order by, and you can round this one here. I'm going to say round it to, let's say, 0 decimal places. Okay, so that's what we have here. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Now we are getting into the having clause. So far we have put the condition on a particular field, but what if you want to put the condition on the records fetched by aggregated field? Okay, so you, in a way, you want to put the restriction on the group function. Okay, so let's do this one here. Probably it's going to be more clear here. Repeat the previous example but list only those reps whose customer have an average balance greater than 1500. All right, so I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to say this one. See, if you traditionally, if you try to do like this, so I'm going to say where. Okay, let's say I'm going to round off this function. If I use like this, greater than 1500, this will give you an error. Why is giving you an error? Because this is a grouping function, the average balance, yeah, and we are using that uh, to group the data by rep number. Okay, and you cannot use the where clause here. Where clause is used for the fields, okay, where, which are not the grouping function. For example, I can say simply where balance. Okay, balance is greater than, so it knows that there is a balance field in the customer and we are putting a restriction on the balance, and that's gonna work fine. So, but the moment you're gonna put the grouping function, you cannot use a where clause. For that you have to use having clause. So this is how you would do the having clause here. I'm gonna say, instead of where, I'm gonna say having. Okay, and this has to come after you group by, so you have to first group the, I'm sorry, not this one. Okay, so this I'm gonna, first we need to group the data by, and then we have to put the having clause. Are you getting it? So so this is how you put the condition on the grouping function. Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out here is, keep the sequence in mind. It has to be always select from, and then it will always be a where if you have any condition that you want to mention here. Let's say balance, let's say where balance is greater than 1500. So it's select from where group by having order by. So this is the sequence in which you're gonna have always your queries written. You cannot alter the positions. Okay, if you alter the positions, this is going to give you the error. You cannot have select where from, you cannot have select from having group by. Okay, it has to be in this particular fashion. That's something you have to keep in mind. Okay, So I don't need where clause here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. List each credit limit and number of customers having each credit limit. Okay, so I'm gonna say here select from customer. So we have this fill into the customer table. We have a credit limit, and then we have count of star having that credit limit. Okay, and we have to use the group by function here, because as if is going to give you the error, right? If you're going to say grouping, it's not a grouping function. You cannot do the aggregation by a certain field without using what do you call group by class. So I'm going to say group by credit limit. Okay, so this will produce the results, and we can always use order by later on. So let's say order by credit limit, so it looks a little better organized. Okay, that's number 28. Okay, let's do 29 here. Repeat 28, but list only those credit limits held by more than 2 customers. So obviously when you say more than 2 customer, that means you have to put the condition on count, and that means we have to use having clause. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this one. So group by, and then I'm gonna have having count of star greater than 2. Okay, so it's just gonna give you 1, because earlier we had if you run this one, we have 2 customer with 5,000 limit, 6 customer with 7,500, 2 customer with 10,000, and 2 customer with 15,000. But we want where the customer total number of customers is greater than 2. Okay, so total number is greater than 2 here. That's something to keep in mind. Moving on, list the credit limit and the number of customers for the sale ref 15 that have this limit. So we have to repeat this one here. Okay, so and now we want to do it for particular rep number. Okay, so customers so I'm gonna say where, because we are looking for a particular rep number. It's not a grouping field. Where rep underscore number equals 15, because I'm putting in single quotes because that's text field. Okay, it's not a number, it's a string data type, and obviously we do not have any customers. Okay, okay, and if you omit this clause, probably it's gonna fetch some records. Okay, so that's something you have to keep in mind. If you're gonna put more condition, make sure that is going to retrieve some data, right? Otherwise, you will simply get no records written. Okay, so this is number 30 here. List each credit limit and the number of customers for the survey 15 that has this limit. Okay, so that's number 30. Let's do 2 more. Repeat 30, but list only those credit limits held by fewer than 2 customers. Okay, so that's we did not get the results last time when we used more than 2. but less than 2, we surely gonna get some results. So group by having count of star less than 2. So we have 2 customer where the self-rev is 15 and the credit limit is 5,000 for one customer and 10,000 for another customer, and both of these customers are represented by a rep number 15. Okay, that's how and you see the order. Select from where group by having an order by. This is the way it will always be. Okay, you cannot alter the orders here. Okay, as I explained earlier. Let's do the last one here. Using now list the number and name of each customer with null street value. So this is fairly easy. So I'm going to say here select from customer so customer number, customer name from customer where street is null. Okay, so this is how you have to write is null, and it's giving me the error because I misspell again street. Okay, so there is no customer where street address is not mentioned. Okay, in other words, if you want to fetch all the customer where the street is not null, you can simply say not here, and it's gonna fetch all the records because every customer in our table has street name mentioned in the data set. Okay, again, if you say null, it's just gonna try to fetch only those record where customer did not mention any street address. Okay, so it will not produce any results. So with this, I conclude my video here. Thank you very much for listening.